Within 12 months, their credit limit went from $2,000 to $18,000 by requesting 2 credit limit increases. That's a staggering 900% increase on their credit limit. And I've been using similar strategies with Navy Federal Credit Union, Chase, and even Capital One in the past. Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. If you've ever stared at your credit card limit and thought, this can't be it, then this is the right video for you. Today, we're going over 5 powerful strategies to unlock massive credit limit increases. Not just small increments, but some serious gains that can help you lower your credit utilization, boost your credit score, and gain trust from future lenders. When banks see that other institutions are already giving you high credit limits, they're more likely to extend more credit your way. It's like a vote of confidence in the financial world. And here's the best part. Most of these strategies are entirely in your control. You don't have to wait for an automatic increase. You can actually take some actions to do this yourself. I've recently released a video on the Sam's Club MasterCard where I increased my limit by 1,600%. And I've done this with multiple credit cards just by being proactive, and you can do the exact same thing. It didn't matter if it was Navy Federal or Chase, Capital One, Synchrony Bank, or even American Express. These are some general things that you can do that will pretty much apply to any lender to get a credit limit increase. So let's get into these actionable steps that you can take, and then we'll discuss how to fill out a credit limit increase request on an application and how to do it in the most strategic way possible. And then ultimately, how to get you approved for higher credit lines, even if you're just starting out. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Number 1 is doing an update on your personal information. For almost every credit card issuer, bank, credit union, when you log into your account, you'll get a prompt that's asking if your personal information is still accurate. If you ignore this, it's a huge mistake. That pop-up is your opportunity to update your income. And this is definitely one, if not the biggest factor determining your credit limit. This was due to the Credit Card Act of 2009, which included the requirement that credit card issuers verify consumers' ability to pay. As a result, issuers started asking more about your income. While they generally require this information when you first get issued your credit card, a reported rise in income could lead to a credit limit increase. You can also update your income manually even if you don't receive a pop-up or any notification. You can do this by simply going into your account settings, find the personal information section, and then update your income. Just make sure that it's realistic. You don't need to put the exact dollar amount. You can put a range. Most banks rarely ask for proof, especially on personal credit cards, but you do have algorithms that estimate your income based on your spending pattern and sometimes even what you have in your bank account. Also, if you're in a household with multiple incomes and your application asks for household income, you're allowed to include the income for your spouse, your partner's income, even if the card is in your name alone. And that one detail could unlock thousands of more available credit limit for you. Number 2 is credit usage. The second way to massively increase your credit limits is to increase your usage. Let's be honest. Why would a bank give you more credit if you're not using the credit that you already have? That's why one of the most powerful things that you can do is consistently use the card that you want to increase. But here's the catch. You got to use it heavily, but responsibly. In the 3 months that will lead up to your credit line increase request, I would say use that card for your go-to everyday spending. Most of the time, banks do things in 90-day intervals as far as collecting data on the way that you spend. So I would put gas, groceries, bills, put everything on that card and make sure that you're paying it off. Ideally, you want to keep your statement balance under 10%, meaning when your statement cycle date closes, the balance that gets reported to the credit bureaus should be 10% of your total available credit limit. That'll put you in the best position when you go to request your increase. I do have another video about how to pay your credit card bill to maximize your credit score. I suggest watching that if you want more information about when and how to pay your credit card bill in order to increase your credit score. Now, low credit usage would signal to banks that you don't need more credit. So the bottom line is credit card companies want to see that you're using their product. The more you use their card, the more they make in interchange fees from the merchant. So if you're spending a lot and paying it off, you're the ideal customer for any credit card issuer. But there's another reason. Heavy usage proves that you can handle a higher limit. If you consistently spend $800 to $900 a month on a $1,000 limit and you always pay it off, your bank sees this as you maximizing your available credit, and essentially you're maxing it out responsibly. And they know that if they give you more room, you'll probably use it more, which again would make them more money. So always think of it from a business perspective. However, I can't stress it enough. Heavy usage means nothing without timely payments. If you're carrying over high balances and only making the minimum payment, that's a red flag because now you're leaning too much on your credit. But if you're paying off a majority or all of your balance every month while leaving a small amount to get reported to the credit bureaus, once again, that signals you know how to manage money and debt, and that's exactly what lenders want to see. Number 3 is establishing a strong banking relationship. Now, we've talked about this topic a lot when it comes to credit unions like Navy Federal, or even when you're looking at business funding. If you want to get on a bank's good side fast, start putting some money into their accounts. When you open a new checking or savings account with a bank or credit union, don't just deposit the minimum required. Aim for a few hundred or even thousands of dollars. Then follow that up with consistent direct deposits. This kind of activity shows banks that you're financially active and of course you're very stable. I had someone open up an account with Navy Federal Credit Union with just $250. They were also approved for a $2,000 cash rewards card. Then I had them set up direct deposit of $500 every 2 weeks. Within 12 months, their credit limit went from $2,000 to $18,000 by requesting 2 credit limit increases. That's a staggering 900% increase on their credit limit. And I've been using similar strategies with Navy Federal Credit Union, Chase, and even Capital One in the past. I use ADP payroll through my business to run regular direct deposits into my accounts. This has opened up even more opportunities for me, including high limit credit cards and loans. So if you're curious about this, you can actually run your own payroll through ADP, and it's much easier than it sounds. You can set up your own account, make your own paycheck stubs, and even ensure that your income is solid. I highly recommend watching that video if you haven't seen it yet, especially if you're a business owner. Using more bank products is, again, a really good strategy. For example, with American Express, I have a high yield savings account with them with automatic transfers. Most banks and credit unions offer more than just checking or savings or even just a single credit card. Think about secured loans, CDs, personal lines of credit, auto loans, balance transfers, anything like that. You don't need to use every single product, but tapping into even a couple can make a big impression. When I was in the process of rebuilding my credit, I opened a secured pledge loan with Navy Federal, and I paid most of it off early. Not only did it increase my credit score, but it also furthered establish a relationship with Navy Federal. It wasn't just about the money that I deposited, it was the activity and engagement with the credit union that made the difference. This approach will always build trust with any bank, with any credit union, when they see that you're using a variety of services and you're using it responsibly. They're much more likely to reward you with higher credit limits and better loan terms. Just remember, only use the products that genuinely make sense for you. Don't go out of your way to spend more or to do more when it doesn't make sense. Find what fits into your lifestyle naturally and then lean into that. This last tip is completely optional and it depends on your personality or the type of person that you are. If you consider yourself a more extroverted individual, consider scheduling a regular one-on-one with your personal banker or a relationship manager. Now, this sounds very old, but ongoing communication is essential for mutual understanding and trust. A great banker will go out of their way to get to know you and every aspect of your personal and business needs. The more you share with them, the better they can craft personalized solutions, and they'll go to bat for you if you're looking for something as small as a credit limit increase or as large as a mortgage. So when you build this relationship, there is something to having a human rapport and being able to walk into a branch and you know the person that you're speaking with. Again, it sounds old, but it actually does go a long way. I've done this with a few banks, and it's really cool that you can contact someone, call them, or even text them, and you can ask them about products and services, and you know that you'll be able to have an in just because you established that relationship. Number 4 is manually requesting your increases. You would be surprised how often I talk to people about credit limit increases, and they never request them themselves. So if you want a higher credit limit, you normally have to ask for it. And yes, you could wait around for an automatic increase, but banks aren't always that generous. I would say 95% of my credit limit increases came because I requested them. It's been only like a handful of times that it's been automatic. So if I had left this up to chance, I'd probably still be sitting at a total combined limit of around $8,000 between all of my personal credit cards. But by taking matters into my own hands, I've pushed that number up to around $70,000 just on the personal side alone. And while some banks still do perform a hard pull on your credit report for a limit increase, many don't. They'll usually do a soft pull or no pull whatsoever, which means you have nothing to lose and thousands of dollars to gain in available credit. So how do you actually fill out your application to give yourself the best shot for a credit limit increase? Well, let's talk about that next. For number 5, let's walk through the critical parts of a credit limit increase application. Now, the verbiage might change depending on your financial institution, but in general, most of this information will be the same no matter which bank, credit union, or credit card issuer that you are looking to get an increase with. Number 1 that they will always talk about is going to be your annual income. This is usually the very first thing that credit card issuers want to know. What is your total income? This is, once again, the single most important factor because it tells you how much you can afford to repay each month. And here's the good news. You can report more than your 9-to-5 paycheck. You can also include income streams. That means your W-2 job, of course. But if you're delivering food like on DoorDash or Uber Eats, or you're selling stuff on Amazon or eBay, or you have a side hustle, maybe you cut hair, maybe you do something else on the side, include all of that. Even if it's just a few $100s a month, it does count. And don't forget, you can also add the income of someone who shares finances with you, your spouse, your partner. As long as you have reasonable access to their funds, you don't even have to share a bank account. Just receiving money regularly from them through apps like PayPal, Venmo, anything like that, Zelle, you can qualify. Next, we have employment status. You always want to select employed. I cannot stress this enough. You should always choose that you are employed whenever possible. Banks see this as the most stable and trustworthy status. Even if you run a small business like me, it's usually better to run payroll for yourself and issue yourself a pay stub. That way you can list yourself as employed by your business rather than being self-employed. And all of my applications being approved for loans, everything that I've ever gotten in the last at least 3 years has been through my business, me being employed by me. But if I were to put self-employed, that would tend to raise more questions and red flags. After this, we have occupation and your monthly rent. For your occupation, put whatever your position is or the role at your company or your current employer, whether you're a teacher, software developer, a nurse, a freelancer, just state what you actually do. For rent or mortgage, only include the portion of the payment that you actually make. So for example, if you split the rent with a roommate, a friend, a spouse, a partner, list just the amount that you actually pay because that's how much you actually owe every single month, not the amount that you may list on your lease. This keeps your debt to income ratio looking healthy. Then we have monthly spend estimate. Be ambitious here, but be believable. When they ask how much you plan to spend on your card each month, this is a behavioral question. They want to see how often you'll use the card because, again, they earn money from every single transaction. A good rule of thumb, say you'll spend about 30% of the limit that you're requesting. So if you're aiming for a $10,000 limit, say you'll use around $3,000 monthly. Furthermore, we have maximum desired credit limit. I would aim high. This usually scares people, but banks will usually counter if they can't approve you for the full request, but they rarely deny you outright just for asking for too much. If you know the card that you have maxes out at $30,000, ask for $30,000. Don't lowball yourself. Now, there are banks like American Express that may do a financial review after you hit a certain threshold. You do want to be wary of that. But again, if you're putting exactly what you actually do make, then this shouldn't be a problem. You should be able to present documentation and tax returns or anything that they ask for to prove that your income is verifiable. Finally, when you're requesting the increase, and again, think about this from the bank's perspective, they want you to use that card more often and spend more. If they do ask you what's the reason for your request, say something like, I anticipate higher expenses maybe over the next month or two, and I want to ensure that I'll have sufficient credit to cover them. Now, there'll be options that you can select for that, but it might say just upcoming larger expenses, things like that, upcoming expenses in the future. Look for that option. Very simple, and it signals you'll be using the credit card more, which means more profit for them. Before we wrap up, let's talk about some common mistakes to avoid. Now, the first one is increase your income regularly. This is, again, one of the most overlooked things, yet most effective ways to get a credit limit increase. Lenders use your income as a benchmark. Most banks will start your credit limit at about 10% of your annual income. So if you make $100,000 per year, don't be surprised if you get an initial limit of around $10,000. But if you want a $30,000 or $50,000 limit, you'll need the income to match. And remember, income can actually come from many different sources. You also want to make sure that your credit profile is in top shape. The fastest way to improve your odds is to lower your credit utilization. Your credit score is heavily influenced by how much available credit you're using, and credit card debt hits this section of your score the hardest, so focus there first. Bring all your cards over 30% utilization down to a more reasonable level, then zero in on the card you want to increase and bring that one down to 10% or less if possible. Ideally, you'd really want to bring all your cards down to less than 10% before you request a credit limit increase. If you have a $3,000 limit, try to have your statement balance, that balance that's reported to the credit bureaus, under $300 when you request the increase. That's just an example of what 10% would look like. Also, know whether your request will result in a soft or hard inquiry. A soft pull won't impact your credit score. A hard pull might ding you by a few points for a few months, and some issuers are transparent about this. Others, not so much. Generally speaking, Navy Federal, American Express, Chase, Bank of America, Capital One, they usually do soft pulls for credit limit increases, whereas Citi and US Bank are kind of a mixed bag. Then there are places like USAA and Barclays, which have been known for doing a hard pull for a credit limit increase. But I know recently that Barclays has actually changed their process, and at this time, they're only performing a soft pull. Of course, that's as of the recording of this video, and things change. If you want to be more cautious, consider putting a temporary freeze on your credit report. That way, if a hard pull is attempted, it'll be blocked and you'll know which bureau the issuer tries to check. Also, to go back to credit, if you have any issues, please check my credit repair playlist. It's in the description. Highly recommend that you watch that if you have any other issues higher than just utilization. I have so many videos on this channel that'll show you how to remove hard inquiries, collections, charge off, things like that. So if that's you, just check out the playlist. Believe it or not, there are times when you should hold off on getting a credit limit increase. If you're actively trying to get approved for multiple credit cards, especially with issuers like Chase or American Express, you might want to wait. Many banks have internal limits for how much they're willing to lend, or they call it maximum exposure. If you're near the cap, a credit limit increase on one of your cards could block you from getting approved for another one. If your request gets denied, don't panic and don't take it personally. You usually receive an explanation either through email or physical mail, and this is called an adverse action letter. It outlines exactly why you were denied and gives you a clear path to fix it. In fact, all of the content that I'm able to bring about usually credit limit increases or credit card approvals have come from adverse action letters. I got denied a bunch of times. I kept all the adverse action letters. I would make a change. I would record the time frame it took me to do it, and then the time of application, and then the time of approval. So just know that it's okay to be denied. In fact, the denial is the reason why I'm able to bring you all this great information in the first place. Maybe your account is too new. Maybe your utilization is too high. Maybe your income doesn't support a larger limit. Whatever the case may be, the letter is basically a cheat sheet for the next time. If you were denied with a soft pull, fix whatever the issue was and try again in 3 months. If it came after a hard pull, wait 6 months. You don't always have to wait that time frame. I'm just giving general information that can apply to most banks or most credit card issuers. Also keep in mind that massively increasing your credit limits isn't about luck. It's about knowing how the system works and playing it smart. You want to start by requesting increases manually. Make sure your income looks solid and diversified. You want to establish strong banking relationships with consistent deposits. You want to use bank products. You want to spend strategically. And above all, you want to keep increasing your income as time goes on. If you follow these strategies, there's no reason you can't double or triple or even, like me, 6x your available credit limit within 1 year. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really wanted to make one comprehensive guide for a massive credit limit increase that can apply to almost any bank. So that way you have a general baseline of what to do in order to get credit limit increases. If you've implemented any of these into a strategy for yourself to get approved, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear about the approval that you got, which bank that you got it with, and exactly how long it took you to do so. Sharing those experiences just really does make it easier for the next person that might also be looking for a credit limit increase. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and you have a wonderful day.